thing where they kind of jab each other between cryptocurrency or Bitcoin specifically and gold. Peter Schiff, of course, is a huge gold bug. He also sells gold, so obviously he's got an interest in promoting gold.
I wonder if Peter Schiff's got a Bitcoin wallet and has since
Secretly,
2011.
Maybe. His son definitely does, and his son has done very, very well. And it's kind of funny because when you look at his son Spencer's tweets, Spencer K. Schiff on Twitter, he doesn't have a whole lot of tweets normally, but if you click on the replies, you can see that he kind of trolls his dad's posts. And so whenever his dad will make a post, like his dad posted something on October 19th promoting some conference of brokers or whatever, and then he just says, or just buy Bitcoin. He just comments on it. And then later somebody else posts saying, everyone in the world knows a new Bitcoin all-time high is coming today, everyone except Peter Schiff. And Spencer responds saying, he's burning incense while staring at the price chart and saying incantations in a different language. It's really weird, referring to his dad. So let's go to your phone calls, though, and thoughts. There's this meme that people are passing around about Peter Schiff, and it's a good excuse to talk about Bitcoin versus gold. And, of course, you're welcome to weigh in on whatever's on your mind. And Footloose is with us here, calling from New Hampshire. I didn't get into the trial yet at all, so I'm glad you called, Footloose. Good excuse to talk about it today. It wasn't your trial. This was this was a trial of. Tell us a little bit about it. What happened today?
Oh, well, finally, some of the trials for the tickets outside the governor's house for picketing in a residential neighborhood, a law or ordinance that his brother had a hand in creating in order to target our First Amendment speech outside his house. So the first 3 trials were set today. Even though they agreed to enjoin all the cases, they refused to continue these people, these defendants, and have one trial because they, made up whatever excuses. And
these were the Newfield 9, which were the 9 folks who were ticketed outside of the governor's house. When they tried to have a candlelight vigil and were told by the police they weren't allowed to stand in one place and they had to move around, and so basically people didn't want to get arrested or ticketed or whatever, so they're like, all right, fine, we'll do what you say, you thugs, and they started walking, and then after they walked for a few minutes, they got arrested after they did exactly what they were told to do. That basically is a summary of what happened on, I think it was the end of December last year.
It was pure entrapment. Like, we weren't there to march.
Right.
We were there to do a candlelight vigil.
A quiet candlelight vigil. There was no speakers. There was no microphone. There was no chanting.
No sign.
Yeah, no signs.
And they didn't allow us, so I said, I'll cancel it. Okay, I'm the organizer. I'll cancel it, and I just want to talk to my friends that drove out here. And so that's when they said the only thing we could do is march together, and they made us march down the street and back and stop. And then next thing you know, other cops are saying we have to freeze. And so, yeah, we all got ticketed, even a reporter that had nothing to do with, he was not with us.
Right.
He caught wind of the story, and he was there to document and take pictures, and they even ticketed him.
Yep.
God, they're horrible dirtbags.
They are. And there were a ton of cops at this event, too. Like, there were 9 people that got ticketed. There were probably at least 3 times as many cops, right?
Yeah. Because Skyler got arrested. He got charged with trespassing and disorderly conduct. And that's when they called in 15 to 20 backup these guys in full riot gear, come marching up the path for a candlelight vigil. Turned into a march. They made us march, and all these guys in riot gear come up, and they literally sick them, and they point at Skyler and Savage Truth 603. Give him a subscribe on YouTube, and they snatch him up and arrest him for trespassing when we were on
public land.
Way.
Yep.
Yeah, we're on a public way. We're on a public path going up to the.
And there's video of this, store. And it's scary stuff. I mean, just these glowering, hulking state troopers coming in there with clubs in their hands, man, and zip ties or whatever else. They were ready to go. these guys.
And mind you, if you don't think the state is bad, this is New Hampshire, which is the least bad, and it's happening like this here. Yeah. You should not be wherever you are if you think that the state is overbearing. You have to get to the place where it's the least bad. This is it.
No doubt. So they hit everybody with these charges. This was back in December. Today was the first hearing for 3 of the 9. There's going to be more coming, including your hearing, Footloose, which I believe is coming up November 4th, correct?
Yes, and I'll be representing myself.
So you got a bit of a teaser today of what the state's quote-unquote evidence is. And well, at least that was you got a little bit of it before they arrested you in the courthouse. Let's talk about that for a moment, because you were just in the courtroom, observing whatever was going on. Did you even get to see the start of the trial? Or did they take you out of there before it even started?
Yeah, no, I got through halfway, and she said, "Well, we'll do a 5-minute break."
Okay.
And it had been a while, so. And I had already been in and out of there because one of the Samantha had left with her daughter. She had to go, and she was supposed to have a trial, and it was a big rigmarole, kangaroo court in my opinion. And so I go out there at the 5-minute break to grab some of my coffee out of my car, and Newfield's police is there, and he says, "Frank Staples, you're under arrest. I have a warrant." I said, "For what? Wait, what is going on?" And he said, breach of bail conditions. And it took a while for me to even get that out of him. "You're under arrest. We have a warrant for your arrest." And they wouldn't even give me any information. I said, "What the hell is going on right now?"
Yeah, I heard. I was in the, I'm recording the trial, and somebody comes back in the courtroom and says Frank's being arrested. And I just stepped out there as quickly as I could, and by that time they'd already gotten you over to the elevator and were ready to whisk you away. And I said, "What are you arresting this guy for?"
That you were aware, because I didn't realize. I was looking around and I'm like, nobody is there was only cops out there and sheriffs out there. I was like, I don't think anybody even knows that I'm getting arrested. This is not good.
I think it was Gail who spotted it. She came in and said you were being taken away, and I went out there and I said, "What are you arresting him for?" They said breach of bail. I said, "What for?" And they refused to answer. And
because they don't know, they're under orders. They just act.
Well, they do know. They just don't. They don't have to say, I guess, or they didn't feel like it. And so they said, well, we found out where they were taking him to which jail, and then they, the doors on the elevator closed, and he was gone. And then when you finally were released, they revealed to you that this was an arrest. They say you breached bail because you were arrested last week or whenever it was, 2 weeks ago, at the meeting that we've covered extensively here, where you attended, Matt, where the executive council rejected the $27 million from the federal government. Hang on, Footloose. You have time to continue to discuss this?
Yes, sir.
All right, stand by. More with Footloose from Absolute Defiance. You can check out his page. I believe it is available on Facebook, and I don't think it's been taken down yet. 603-283-6160. He's got a Twitter account as well. This is Free Talk Live.
If you want to bring more liberty into your community, there's something you should see. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, break through. It's true. It's truly something new. If you'd like to see real prosperity, start your own currency, boost the economy. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, its impact's hard to overstate, results you can appreciate. If you're tired of relying on the state, want to make your own community great, homelessness and hunger to eliminate, let the wealth accumulate. Don't wait for the growth rate to accelerate. Go to intercoin.org. Get the coins for yourself.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The U.S. House of Representatives has voted to hold former White House Chief Strategist Stephen Bannon in criminal contempt of Congress. It's after he defied a subpoena to appear before the committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Attorney General Merrick Garland will now make the final decision on whether to prosecute. FSN's Kate Fisher reports.
The vote was largely along party lines, with 9 GOP members joining the Democratic majority. Democrats believe Bannon is a key witness because he spoke to former President Donald Trump in the weeks leading up to the insurrection. And on his podcast the day before, he said all hell was going to break loose tomorrow. Liz Cheney, one of only 2 Republicans on the committee, says it's vital they hear his testimony.
Mr. Bannon's own public statements make clear he knew what was going to happen before it did, and thus he must have been aware of and may well have been involved in the planning of everything that played out on that day.
If Bannon's convicted, he could face fines or jail. Democrats hope his case will stand as a warning to potential witnesses about the consequences of not cooperating with the investigation.
European leaders kicked off a 2-day summit in Brussels with a discussion on rising energy prices, a growing concern as the continent heads into the cold winter months. However, the EU standoff with Poland is threatening to overshadow other issues, such as COVID-19 and migration. FSN's Giles Gibson reports from Brussels.
Heading into this meeting, there were tense negotiations going on behind the scenes about whether Poland and the rule of law in the country would even be on the agenda. But the fact that this issue has come up second in the running order of this meeting after energy and ahead of the migration crisis really shows just how important an issue this is for certain leaders who are sitting around that table here in Brussels. This dispute was reignited earlier this month when the Polish Constitutional Tribunal issued a ruling that EU law does not take primacy over certain aspects of the Polish constitution. That really is a bit of a challenge to the entire legal framework that the European Union is built on.
The S&P hit a new record high after a series of strong earnings results. It's the 7th straight day of gains for the index. FSN's Sarah Walton reports from New York.
The Dow ended the day down just 7 points, while the Nasdaq was up more than 0.5%. The S&P closed at a new record high, rising 0.3%, helped by strong earnings results announced by Tesla on Wednesday, leading to a 3% rise in its stock price during Thursday's trading. Sarah Walton, New York.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, open phones here. If you want to join us, the number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian.
And Matt.
Whether you want to talk about cryptocurrency, gold, or whatever happens to be on your mind, you can do that here. And coming up, we'll talk about the backlog of cargo ships. It's not getting smaller. They went 24 hours at the port, supposedly, to try to deal with the backlog. And, well, let's just say it's a backlog that's getting longer, not lessening. We'll tell you more about that coming up here. Again, the number is 603-283-6160. Also, we told you last year about Intercoin, which can help any business or organization launch their own currency or raise money using their own token. Now, Intercoin.org has launched worldwide. If there's a token you want to launch or an app that you want to build for your community, go to Intercoin.org, enter your email, and the team will get in touch and learn about your needs. While you're there, if you want, you can get some Intercoin investor tokens for yourself. Head over to Intercoin.org as we go back to Footloose. He is one of the founders of, if not the founder of, Absolute Defiance, one of the organizations that over the last 2 years has really risen to quite a bit of prominence here in New Hampshire, opposing things like mask mandates and the various other tyrannies that were being shoved down people's throats by this governor. You were one of the leaders of the protests out in front of the governor's house early this year, late last year, and one of those events, after they started cracking down and threatening the protesters in various ways, there was a picketing ordinance, quote-unquote picketing ordinance that the town government passed, which, strange, one of the counselors on the town council is the brother of Chris Sununu, the governor.
What?
Yeah, and that guy just happened to be the one that introduced the ordinance that bans people from quote-unquote picketing, which on its own you would think would be a constitutionally protected free speech activity, but regardless of that, they passed this ordinance, arguably illegal and unconstitutional, to protect supposedly the whole town of Newfields from these dastardly picketers. But we know It was all about protecting the governor. And so instead of quote-unquote picketing, like going out with signs and such, which is what we'd been doing, you and a group of other protesters went. I wasn't able to go because it was nighttime, and I had to. We were on the air at the time. But you wanted to do a candlelight vigil out there, which doesn't involve signs. It doesn't involve chanting. It's not a protest. It's not picketing in any way, shape, or form. But the way they defined picketing was like this real, loosey kind of definition of just walking, basically, like being in front of somebody's house. Go ahead, tell me more about it.
So yeah, during the trial, they're like, they walked past the same residence twice. They were targeting the residents, and like, there's no targeting of anything. We didn't throw eggs at the house. We didn't toilet paper his tree. Halloween's coming up. Let's just remind everybody. But we didn't do anything like that. We didn't ask for anything like that. And what is picketing? That's the question.
Mm-hmm.
It's walking around with a picket sign.
That's what you would think.
Well, you would think, but a town ordinance or a law has to say, what it is, so people can know what not to do.
Right.
It could have, as far as I'm concerned, what he and his brother are up to there, that's a criminal act. That's a violation of rights, and a violation of rights under the color of law is how it goes. And that's Title 18, subsection 241 and 242. One of those is simply that, and then the other section turns it into a conspiracy charge if there was two or more people colluding to deprive rights under the color of law. So that sounds like a criminal act.
The former AG, who's now the Chief Justice on the New Hampshire Supreme Court, he, from what we understand through Freedom of Information Act requests, that New Hampshire, was it New Hampshire Journal or Inside Sources? I can't remember. They dug that up, and that the AG reached out to the Newfields Town Board and instigated that ordinance.
So the AG allegedly did the wording. They constructed this, passed the wording to Sununu's brother, who then introduces it, and the town council unanimously passes it, goes into effect, and then 9 people get ticketed. 1 was arrested for simply being outside of the governor's property. And I want to clarify something. There was this trial, this show trial or whatever you want to call it today that happened. They had like a white, not a whiteboard, but like a white pad where you can draw with a marker up there, and they're drawing like this map, which is highly inaccurate because it made it look like the governor's house. They like drew a little house icon, and then they drew the roundabout, or not roundabout, but cul-de-sac or whatever, this loop that is right out in front of the governor's house and the other 2 houses that are right there in the neighborhood. The governor's house is not sitting right next to the loop. It's like 200 feet away from this little park.
As if a governor has like some common house that sits right on the curb.
So they made it look like on this map that, people were right out in front of the governor's house. No, the governor's frontage of this house it's visible, but it's like a long stone's throw away from this area. So it was highly inaccurate what they were trying to represent up there today, and that's just tip of the iceberg with this trial.
Would you say that cops are liars?
Absolutely. Of course they are. They're trained to lie.
Yeah. That's all they know how to do.
That's literally what their training is.
I can't remember anything of detail that Seth tried to ask.
Yeah, Seth Hipple, Free Stater attorney, was representing the folks that were on trial today. And it was actually a couple of liberty activists that we know. Bill Domenico, longtime listener here on Free Talk Live, great activist from the Manchester area.
Totally brilliant, man.
Another gentleman named Will, who's a super activist as well. But, one of the things I noticed, Footloose, and I don't know if you were in the trial for this part because you got arrested for a supposed bail violation, which happened 2 weeks ago at the governor's executive council meeting is what they claimed. But they, at one point, basically what happened with the folks that were at this event was they were told that they couldn't stand still or else it would be considered picketing them with like candles. Y'all didn't even get to the point of being able to bring out the candles. The cops, came at you. They were there already when the candlelight vigil folks arrived, and the cops said, "You got to walk." And so they started walking down the street away from Sununu's house. And then because they're cars were parked around Sununu's house, and they were thirsty or whatever. They wanted to go to the general store, which was sort of on the other side of Sununu's house. You have to walk up a little footpath that goes up like one of the sides of his house, not next to it, but a ways away. And so they started walking around the side of the circle that was opposite from Sununu's house, so as far away from his house as they could be near their cars. They walk around that side of the circle, and then they encounter a cop who, and they've got video of this, which was refused to be entered into evidence today in the trial. They've got video of this interaction. Now, supposedly the judge is going to take it later from Seth, but what happened was there was apparently a cop who stops them for a moment, and they ask the cop, hey, can we go along this footpath near Sununu's house to go to the general store, and then can we come back along the same path because we got to come back to our cars? And the cop, he told you guys you could do that, right, Footloose?
Yes.
And what do you know? The prosecution didn't call that officer as a witness today.
Oh, what do you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that officer, the key officer who would have been able to testify to that, was not in the courtroom.
Is there any way, are there any cops that aren't dirtbags? Is there anybody that works for the government that isn't in some way an absolute lowlife?
A lot of the good ones get frustrated and quit.
That's true. They're out there. They are out there.
You guys get told that you can go up this footpath, and so you start going up this footpath, and literally within feet of having begun walking up this footpath, some other goon yells at you and says stop, and then they start issuing tickets. Right? That's what happened. You guys were literally doing exactly what the police told you to do, and it's one of those things where one cop says go and the other cop says stop, and then tickets get issued.
Right.
So it's just a crazy situation. That's what happened today, and they wouldn't let any evidence in to, prove the activist side of the story. Now, again, supposedly that evidence will be allowed in. Seth Hippel is going to submit a memorandum about why this whole thing's unconstitutional to begin with. So the judge hasn't made a decision. She's given Seth 30 days on this, and then the prosecutor's got 30 days to reply. Footloose, is there more you want to say about this?
No, it's just, it's just crazy town right now.
You'll keep us in the loop. We'll talk to you again probably around your trial. More coming up. Thanks, Footloose.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to AgristHosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's AgristHosting.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Free speech is protected on the internet, right? Not always. Government agencies try to limit free speech and commerce on the net. Luckily, when they do, the Institute for Justice is there to defend your First Amendment right to free speech. IJ helped set the first federal precedent for internet free speech in 1999, and ever since has worked to prevent unconstitutional roadblocks in cyberspace. Visit our website today at ij.org.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Open phones. If you want to join in here, the number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here in the studio tonight, it's Ian
and Matt.
I just noticed that I think one of the Newfields 9, one of these folks that was arrested out in front of the governor's house, or I guess on the side, on a footpath that is, as the activist is in our chat room here on Twitch, Free State, New Hampshire. I believe that is Bill D., who was one of the guys that was on trial today. He says it's a paved right-of-way to the store.
Oh, my God.
Yes, this is not like some little dirt path going on the side of the governor's house. This is something that joggers and people that are walking regularly are using, in the members of the public. And he says when they said stop, an additional 12 state thugs arrived with the clubs and such, ready to go, ready to engage in mass arrests. And they issued 9 tickets and they arrested one guy, all for ostensibly picketing by walking nearby.
I kind of hope a giant lawsuit flows from this and a bunch of money is paid.
That would be excellent. And, Seth Hipple is the attorney that took on the case today.
He's a very talented attorney.
He's very, very good, and he has won some pretty big lawsuits and gotten some activists some checks. In fact, I was there with Chris Wade, our Friday night co-host. Seth took his case when Chris was arrested illegally by the Manchester police. Chris walked away with a $15,000 check out of that.
Good.
So we'll see if something like that can happen in this particular case. I got video of the hearing footage today, but I'm not going to release it yet until we get I don't want to put video out unless there's an actual result, because it's nice to be able to show the video and say, here's what the judge said.
Right.
And so the judge took this case under advisement. She issued a 30-day window where Seth can issue a motion to dismiss to the judge and make his argument on the basis of unconstitutionality of this ordinance to begin with.
And from what I understand, Seth also has quite a bit of respect from the legal community in New Hampshire these days.
He has earned it.
He's come a long way.
Yeah, he's doing a good job.
He's only a young lawyer, too. Seth is still a young man in lawyer terms.
I think he's a little younger than
40,
me, maybe.
40, yeah, something like that.
So, it was interesting, and so that footage will be released, but look for it maybe a little closer to Christmas time or something like that, or a couple of months down the line, because, again, it's going to be a little bit before that happens. But and more trials are coming. So this was just the first 3. Seth has 5 of the 9 people that were ticketed that are his clients. One of them that is not Seth's client, I talked to him today, the reporter. that was there that also got ticketed.
Just nailing reporters.
Yeah, apparently the reporter might be actually reaching out to Seth, so he may end up using him, or he might go alone. Footloose was Seth's client, but Footloose, he's a unique character, and he's a bit of a difficult client, I imagine, for an attorney to have. So Footloose ended up firing Seth today.
And now he's fancy free
in open court, and Footloose is going to be taking this trial on himself, which is actually going to be really interesting. Because whenever you go to court and you don't have an attorney, they treat you differently.
Yep.
Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's not a good thing. Because obviously if you're an attorney, you know all these people. And then, it's really all about who you know. So there's that factor when you do have an attorney. But if you don't have an attorney, then you get to approach things from a completely different perspective. Because attorneys... For those that don't know, when you become an attorney, you actually swear an oath of allegiance to the court. You are first and foremost an officer
of
the court prior to being your client's attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Your allegiance lies with the court. Now, obviously, you're paying these people, and they're your attorney, and they'll do their best that they can, but they only do their best within the strictures created by the system that they've agreed to.
Interestingly, what I've seen from Seth is he's been very principled and dedicated to the law over the court, first and foremost. I mean, he's built his reputation amongst the judges, too, from what I understand, by being a very straight-up, client-based. He has a client, and he's going to defend them attorney, which is not something you see every day anymore, like you're talking about. Everybody, I don't think Seth even plays golf.
With other attorneys, you mean?
I don't think he plays golf at all, so therefore he can't play golf with judges and attorneys and things. So,
but he's managed to earn a lot of respect,
he has,
as you're saying,
based on his merits.
Yeah, and he's an attorney who's willing to actually go to trial. He was telling us today at lunch that a lot of attorneys, they don't want to go to trial.
Yeah, they want to stay out of that. They want easy money.
And he's willing to go, and so it actually puts him in a better negotiating position, because if he's actually willing to go to trial, the prosecutors are like, they don't want to go to trial, and then they give you a better deal. So. But anyway, this is going to be interesting because Footloose, he's a real interesting character. He's had a lot of experience getting criminally charged and run legal through this crazy legal system that we have. He's going to take this case on pro se. He's going to be representing himself in court. And
Godspeed.
There's some downsides to that. I've done it myself. I was telling Footloose today, the only time I've never represented myself in court is this current Crypto 6 case. And that's because I'm facing felony charges the rest of my life in prison. Mm-hmm. This ain't just some misdemeanor or town code violation where it's no biggie.
And these are like the crowned dirtbags who are, they will break every law available for them to break
in a system that I know nothing about. I've never been in the federal court system before, besides observing one or two hearings.
I met those people with my own, I met them personally and was handcuffed to a chair by them, and I can tell you they are certifiable sociopaths.
Yeah, you got to look out with these people.
They are nuts.
But every other local charge, every state charge I've had, I've always done it myself, and so it gives you a level of flexibility that you don't have with an attorney, and it makes it more of an interesting trial. That's whether or not you've got a better chance. I don't know if you do necessarily, because again, you don't have the benefit of knowing the judges and knowing the other attorneys, but it gives you more freedom. You can express yourself, especially if it's in front of a jury. Now, this is just a bench trial. It's just a trial in front of a judge because it's a town ordinance violation. You can't get a jury for that in New Hampshire. You can only get a jury for a Class A misdemeanor. But nonetheless, it'll be interesting to compare, watch Seth take this trial on and then watch Footloose do it in a couple more weeks. So we'll inform you as this continues to develop. Coming up, we didn't really finish the conversation about Peter Schiff. You had brought in this meme about him and his son, Peter versus Spencer.
Yeah, Spencer decided to dump all of his money into Bitcoin, and Peter, obviously, his father, is extremely anti-Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And it looks like all of Peter's years of hard work investing in gold didn't go anywhere near the payoff that the investing in Bitcoin.
Yeah, gold has really been lackluster as far as its payout or whatever, as far as its earnings, if you will, over the last a couple decades.
But I also think we also have to be very, very careful about that, because we're not really talking, the spot price of gold, spot price of silver isn't actually the price of gold and silver. That is the paper contract price.
You're referring to the manipulation in the supplies.
Oh, yeah. There's way more money trading in gold and silver on paper than there actually even exists.
This is one of the big weaknesses of gold and silver is...
Nobody knows what it's really worth.
Yeah. The price is manipulated, as you say, because of the paper trading, meaning that a lot of people are buying, quote unquote, buying gold and or silver.
Yeah, but they're really buying promises to pay.
Yeah, they're not actually getting the physical product that they can, dig and store under their house or, in a safe or whatever. They have a piece of paper that says that you own this amount of gold.
Yeah, and nobody ever calls it in either. And actually, interesting, a long time ago, in a land far away, a land known as Omaha, there was a man named Warren Buffett, and he bought. I was a big silver bug, and I remember I really got into it. And then about 4 days later, Warren Buffett decided to get into it. So I beat Warren Buffett to market. Pat myself in the back there a little bit, but Warren Buffett bought 128,000 ounces of silver on paper.
Yeah.
And then called it in. And the whole market froze for a sec in fear because it wasn't available.
Yeah. Where is it?
Yeah. So what they ended up doing was delivering him a little bit and then allowed him to rent back the stuff that hadn't been delivered to him at interest. And
oh my
he
God.
He made out like a bandit. I mean, Warren Buffett knew what he was doing at the time, so I think he realized, I can't believe he didn't do a lot sooner, to be honest with you.
He was calling their bluff.
Yeah,
basically.
calling their bluff. And back then, it literally is gambling. It's nothing but cards. There's no hard money on the table. There's no gold and silver.
A lot of people say this, where they buy this paper gold and they call it, to try to collect it. And they don't collect that amount, but they try to collect any amount. And it's like, we'll get back to you on when we can send this. It might be 3 months, because they don't have it. It's not there in a vault. It
doesn't exist.
Which means that they're selling product that doesn't exist. And if they can sell product that doesn't exist, they can drive the price down by selling more than the supply actually is.
And a lot of people say that the experts will tell you that silver is a lot harder to mine and refine than gold is, and silver is actually a more valuable precious metal than gold is.
But the market doesn't show it.
The market won't show it.
Yeah.
Traditionally, gold is the golden child. So is gold actually not as valuable? It's undervalued? Definitely heavily undervalued.
Yeah. It should be going up as the value of the dollar goes down.
Correct.
And over time, it does trend in that direction. I mean, historically, gold and silver have been...
And if you look at what it costs to buy an ounce of silver on eBay, it's much higher than an ounce of silver on paper.
Yeah, and sometimes, I know last time I looked, I haven't looked in most of a year, but last year when I was looking for gold, you couldn't find an ounce of gold.
Correct.
Not anywhere near spot.
No.
Hundreds of dollars more, maybe. More coming up here. This is Free Talk Live.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The U.S. House of Representatives has voted to hold former White House Chief Strategist Stephen Bannon in criminal contempt of Congress. It's after he defied a subpoena to appear before the committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Attorney General Merrick Garland will now make the final decision on whether to prosecute. FSN's Kate Fisher reports.
The vote was largely along party lines, with 9 GOP members joining the Democratic majority. Democrats believe Bannon is a key witness because he spoke to former President Donald Trump in the weeks leading up to the insurrection. And on his podcast the day before, he said all hell was going to break loose tomorrow. Liz Cheney, one of only 2 Republicans on the committee, says it's vital they hear his testimony.
Mr. Bannon's own public statements make clear he knew what was going to happen before it did, and thus he must have been aware of and may well have been involved in the planning of everything that played out on that day.
If Bannon's convicted, he could face fines or jail. Democrats hope his case will stand as a warning to potential witnesses about the consequences of not cooperating with the investigation.
European leaders kicked off a 2-day summit in Brussels with a discussion on rising energy prices, a growing concern as the continent heads into the cold winter months. However, the EU standoff with Poland is threatening to overshadow other issues, such as COVID-19 and migration. FSN's Giles Gibson reports from Brussels.
Heading into this meeting, there were tense negotiations going on behind the scenes about whether Poland and the rule of law in the country would even be on the agenda. But the fact that this issue has come up second in the running order of this meeting after energy and ahead of the migration crisis really shows just how important an issue this is for certain leaders who are sitting around that table here in Brussels. This dispute was reignited earlier this month when the Polish Constitutional Tribunal issued a ruling that EU law does not take primacy over certain aspects of the Polish constitution. That really is a bit of a challenge to the entire legal framework that the European Union is built on.
The S&P hit a new record high after a series of strong earnings results. It's the 7th straight day of gains for the index. FSN's Sarah Walton reports from New York.
The Dow ended the day down just 7 points, while the Nasdaq was up more than 0.5%. The S&P closed at a new record high, rising 0.3%, helped by strong earnings results announced by Tesla on Wednesday, leading to a 3% rise in its stock price during Thursday's trading. Sarah Walton, New York.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. It's been exactly 10 years since the killing of Libyan leader Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. He was dragged through the streets of the city of Sirte, where he was found hiding after opposition forces finally overthrew his 42-year dictatorial rule. In the intervening decade, Libya has been in a fragile state. Analyst Bob McMahon is with the New York-based Council on Foreign Relations.
In case of Libya, the country remains divided. The country is nominally at peace for almost sort of a year and a half since the ceasefire was put in place. There's supposed to be elections, national elections on December 24th at last report that are hoped will be a unifying exercise. But we're talking about 10 years of a great deal of fighting, a great deal of chaos, disarray, and also of sort of proliferation of weapons, huge amount of armaments taken out of Libya. And by many many accounts have spread across the Sahel region. You've had a lot of instability and a lot of violence in the Sahel region in the last 10 years. And then also Libya in kind of the lawless vacuum becoming this transit point for migrants trying to get to Europe.
He also questions the failure of the United Nations and the international community to do more to foster democratic institutions in Libya, and notes outside actors, including Russia, Turkey and others, are now jostling for advantage as the country prepares for those December elections. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. The U.S. House of Representatives votes to hold former White House Chief Strategist Steve Bannon in criminal contempt of Congress. European leaders kick off a two-day summit in Brussels with a discussion on rising energy prices, a growing concern as the continent heads into the cold winter months. And the S&P hit a new record high after a series of strong earnings results. It's the 7th straight day of gains for the index. That is the latest feature story news. Ira Spitzer reporting.
This is the Onion Week in Review. A study published Friday by the University of Minnesota found that mosquitoes have no physiological reason for biting humans, with researchers noting that the insects feed exclusively on pollen and seemingly only suck human blood out of spite.
According to our findings, mosquitoes usually spit out the blood after a bite. They just really enjoy ruining outdoor activities and spreading deadly diseases.
Researchers added that mosquitoes often bite a variety of vertebrates besides humans, including baby pandas, koala bears, and very small puppies, all for fun. And in tech news, a new Visa talking credit card urges buyers to go for it.
Come on, buy it. You know you want it.
In other news, the utterance of a secret password grants customers access to a long-rumored 18-inch Subway sandwich. It's easy to tell what an area man would look like as a skeleton, and a longtime teacher retires without changing a single student's life. This week's scheduled interview with the surly and forlorn Matthew Modine was cut for time and is doomed to never be seen. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the third hour of the program. Open phones. If you want to join us here, you can. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We've been talking a little bit about gold, precious metals, and the manipulated marketplace there, comparing gold also to cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. And what brought all this up was the conflict between Peter Schiff and his son Spencer, his 18-year-old son Spencer, who at some point, a little bit when he was younger, he got his hands on some Bitcoin and went all in, apparently, on Bitcoin. And, well, guess what? As of yesterday, if you bought Bitcoin at any point before yesterday, you were up yesterday.
Yeah, the story started, I think, in March, where the kid had some. I shouldn't call him.
He's 18
years old, but he had some Bitcoin, and I think it was in March, like mid-March, where he decided to put all his chips on Bitcoin. And here we are. I mean, he's probably it's up a lot.
Yeah, it is. 60 hit almost 67,000 yesterday.
Yeah, what was it in March? Like
it was going up to around there.
40 something?
I don't know. I mean, it's gone up quite a bit. It was at the early 40s like a month ago. So, I mean, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. But over time, it tends to go up, which is why it hit a record all-time high yesterday.
Now, does that mean that Bitcoin is the best coin?
Well, it's certainly the most valuable as far as total market cap. Now it's over $1.2 trillion market cap.
That's nuts. I remember Thanksgiving 2012 when it hit a billion and we all just lost our minds.
Wow.
Oh my God. I think you were at my house because we had the what do you call it? The orphan Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, okay.
Remember?
Yeah. Actually, it's just under 1.2 trillion. We're 1.18 trillion right now.
Nutty.
Because it's dropped a little bit. It's right around 63,000 today.
Nutty. I think Doge is like $1 billion market.
Dogecoin, 32 billion.
32 billion. Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's so there's a lot of garbage coins out there. And honestly, I think Bitcoin's a garbage coin. It's so old and bulky and fat and slow and expensive, and they got to attach all kinds of gadgets to it to make it work at all, and it still doesn't really work that well.
Yeah, it's sort of the grandfather of cryptocurrencies.
Thank you, Granddaddy Bitcoin, for being the first, but there's, we're not going to take our Model T to the racetrack anymore. We're going to put you in a museum now.
Unfortunately, that's true. Bitcoin could have tried to keep up with the Joneses, but ultimately, whenever you're the king of the hill, you get a little lazy.
Yeah.
Like most of the time, if you dominate a marketplace or whatever and nobody else can come close to you, you get a little lazy. You rest on your laurels a bit. You don't develop what you might need to develop to stay competitive. And that's true with Bitcoin. They've just been taking it easy.
Yeah, and a lot of the people who are like promoting Bitcoin now are like, well, we ought to comply with the new regulations that are coming out so we can be official.
Yeah.
We got to keep it official and on the up and up. Okay, well, I don't think anything the government says is on the up and up. So if you're keeping up with that, you're probably not on the up and up.
Well, what you're talking about is a division within the world of cryptocurrency that Naomi Brockwell pointed out today. She linked to something. I went ahead and copied the link and put it on my social media account over at social.freetalklive.com. It's about DarkFi, standing for dark finance, versus regulated finance, or RegFi. And I think that's an interesting way to discern the difference between sort of the two camps in the world of cryptocurrency. There's the camp of those of us, and I think I can include you in this one because you always wear those Monero shirts, so you're definitely in the DarkFi.
I'm wearing one right now under this shirt.
I think that's like your complete non-work related wardrobe.
My whole
seems to be all
non-work
Monero shirts.
Yeah,
that's in the Fed. Oh no, XMR.
XMR the Fed.
XMR the Fed. I like it.
Monero the Fed.
So the division is between those who sort of hold the original crypto anarchist view that Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, held, and that was that this technology, this blockchain technology, this cryptocurrency technology is a way to undermine the banks and undermine the central banks and the governments and their power by putting the power of money into the hands of the individual and not asking for permission to do it. Because you don't have to ask someone's permission to get a Bitcoin wallet like Edge Wallet or Exodus Wallet. These are two of the best ones that are out there right now.
There's also one called Cake that people like, apparently.
Yeah, unfortunately, I am prohibited from using these things by my ridiculous bail conditions.
Sad.
So I don't know what new wallets have come out over the last year, but as of before the raid, my favorites were Edge and Exodus. But it doesn't cost anything. You don't have to sit in some banker's office for an hour and fill out forms and show ID or whatever. You just download the app, and then boom, now you can receive Bitcoin. And there's these people who they want to curry favor with politicians. They know that politicians want to control this business, this industry, and they want to be controlled. They want to submit themselves. Oh, politicians, tell me what to do.
Do it harder, Daddy.
Yeah, I just want to service you.
Yeah, they're horrible. Like, what are you thinking? These are people who've never read the white paper. The whole purpose, if you read Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper, it's very clear what the purpose of Bitcoin was in the first place, and the whole theory of cryptocurrency, and it had to do with the housing market bubble that they forced that they intentionally created, and then they intentionally burst. Everybody lost all their money. It's like, we got to separate from this government money. We got to get our own kind of stuff going here. And we did. And it's fantastic. And it actually works. It was a genius idea. It's a little long in the tooth now, that old type of cryptocurrency. And a lot of the cryptos that are out there are they're just copies of, Doge is just a copy of Bitcoin, right? And Litecoin's a copy of Bitcoin. And most of the other cryptos out there are a copy of Ethereum and, whatever. But there are other cryptos out there. One of the things that these people who hate cryptocurrency, the government people and the banking people, they don't know what really to do about it. They're in evade mode now. They're in attack mode. They're just flailing, trying to defend their power structure at this point.
They want to figure out how to tax and how to regulate this thing that is designed to be untouchable.
Yeah, and they don't really know how still. And there really isn't a way.
Because they're stupid old dinosaurs.
They are dinosaurs, and they're dying, and they don't know what to do about it. And to make matters worse for them, there's such a thing as a privacy coin.
Yes.
Not that it's
like Monero.
easy. Yeah, not that it's easy to
coin.
They might track an entire Bitcoin. They might be able to decrypt a Bitcoin transaction just to find out that, it was $1.58 for a bag of potato chips. And they might spend a few weeks or a month trying to figure out whatever just happened there. But to make matters worse, now there's privacy coins like Monero. And by the way, I'm just a Monero fan. This is not a paid Free Talk Live advertisement for Monero.
I would love it if Monero wanted to advertise with us. That'd be fantastic. But it's a decentralized group, so there's not like some Monero corporation that we can go knock on their door.
And a lot of people think that about cryptocurrency. Yeah, I know there's different ones, and I don't know how to talk to the managers at Bitcoin. Well, there really isn't managers at. Well,
Bitcoin has programmers, but it's open source. So anybody that knows how to program can contribute
but
code.
you can't talk to the manager of, Dash.
Well,
maybe you actually coded Dash.
Dash is different.
I picked a bad one.
Well, Dash is interesting. I like it actually. I'm a big fan of Dash, even
it's
though
smooth and it's fast.
It's been punished in the crypto rankings over the last few years. At one point, Dash was a number 5 crypto.
Yeah.
There was probably back in 2017. It was up there, and it is a useful cryptocurrency. Dash, to their credit, has focused like a laser for the most part on becoming a useful cryptocurrency, because a lot of these cryptos, it's all pure speculation on, oh well, our crypto can do X, Y, and Z. Technically it's got all these computer geek features or whatever, but Dash is like, we want to be the crypto that people actually spend.
Right.
And they came out with a system. They were the first one to do the decentralized autonomous organization. And what that means is, imagine a corporation where there's a board of directors and there's a president and your usual executive director and all that stuff. And now imagine none of that exists, but yet you still have a, quote, organization, except it's decentralized, meaning that there's no one who's in charge of anyone else. There's just this system that somebody set up and then basically walks away from and says, all right, I set this system up. If you guys think it's valuable, come on in and do things with it. And with Dash, they can do things like run masternodes, which provide services to the network, and they get rewards for that. And then of the mining rewards that get mined in, so like with Bitcoin, 100% of the mining rewards go to the miners. With Dash, 10% goes into this sort of spendable promotional budget.
Which is a genius move, actually.
45% goes to the masternodes and 45% goes to the miners. So it's set up very differently, and that 10%, the masternodes vote on what to do with. So there's a little bit of centralization in that way, but it's still decentralized in that anyone can become a masternode as long as they've got enough Dash.
But if you want to pay the kid to rake your leaves and not give him a 1099, Monero's your game.
That's true. There's more coming up here. You can join us here on Free Talk Live.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
When Monster Hunter International discovers one of Isaac Newton's wardstones being auctioned off, they decide to steal it and use it to destroy the Chaos God once and for all. But a mysterious thief upends their plan, and it soon becomes a race against time as something much older and infinitely more evil awakens in the jungles of South America. Monster Hunter Bloodlines by New York Times bestselling author Larry Correia and Baen Books. Visit monsterhunternation.com for more.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Fork Fest takes place the week after Pork Fest, but Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the ForkFest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the ForkFest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. forkfest.party. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian.
And Matt.
And, of course, you can bring up whatever's on your mind. You can join us online as well. Head over to freetalklive.com, and you can get involved in our chat server. We got a Matrix chat server. And we've been talking about cryptocurrencies here. There's one of the rooms on the Matrix server is about cryptocurrencies. So if you want to talk to some other crypto users, you can do that there. There's a bunch of rooms. There's only 8 or 10 of them that are official, ones that, Free Talk Live put there. The rest of them were all created by listeners. People that just they said, I want to talk about this topic or
That's
whatever.
So cool.
And they can just spin up a room and they can set all the rules for the room. If you want to be a highly restrictive room and decide who comes in, you can make it private. If you want it to be public, you can make it public. You can make it encrypted or unencrypted. So it's up to you. And you can go to chat.freetalklive.com to learn more about that and get started over there on the Matrix server. That's chat.freetalklive.com. That'll take you to a page of instructions on how to do that. So we were just kind of vamping about cryptocurrencies, which is a favorite topic of a lot of the free staters, a lot of people that have come here to New Hampshire as part of this migration of freedom-loving people that is so important right now. It's more important now than ever because cryptocurrency is great on its own. And cryptocurrency on its own is going to, and already arguably has changed the world of finance by giving the individual control over his value or her money that they've earned and not allowing bankers and government goons to get their hands on it. So that's pretty important. But what's more important is to actually have a community of these people together in one general area. You mentioned earlier, I think it was on the air tonight, that you went to a vegan restaurant. Now, you're not a vegan, but your girlfriend, I think, is.
Yeah.
And so you went to this unusual little restaurant that's like a little buffet. How was it, by the way? I didn't ask you.
It's
as a chef.
It would be better if there was meat, but there isn't. So that said, I had a delicious bean burrito. It was very, very good. Nikki had falafel. They look great.
Yeah, when I've been there, and it's been a few years since I've been there, but I went and checked it out a few times. It's like it was pretty flavorful. Like they did a good job making the food.
Yeah, and their whole premise there is they're vegan not for the sake of being vegan. They're Seventh-day Adventists, so they have some dietary restrictions where they don't cause harm to living things.
Interesting. I didn't know that about them.
Yeah, I didn't really either, but they abide by it, and you'll see animal rights stuff in the rack there and stuff. So
the thing I wanted to bring up about that was you had bragged that you had gotten the owner to install a Edge wallet, a cryptocurrency wallet, and I wanted to point out that there have been people going to that restaurant asking about cryptocurrency in the past. So you finally were successful at doing this, but it was likely that your way was paved to some extent by other people asking her in the past, hey, do you take Bitcoin?
I was just the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, and that's because we have those straws, if you will, here in this area in Keene, New Hampshire, crypto mecca, as was labeled by Forbes magazine a couple years ago, where we have multiple businesses that accept cryptocurrency in town, and we've got a good core group. It's not a huge group. It's, a dozen or something people that are hardcore crypto people that are likely to ask that question when they go to a cash register and just say, hey, do you guys take Bitcoin? And eventually, if it's not the owner, him or herself, that's behind the register, then you hope that the word gets to the owner. But what happened last year with the restaurant crackdown and the COVID, ridiculous rules and all these people quitting their jobs, there's a lot more owners working behind the register than ever before.
That's true.
So it's easier now than ever before to actually talk to the decision maker of these places. But having that community of cryptocurrency libertarians, let's call them crypto libertarians or whatever, having that community of crypto anarchist types in New Hampshire leads to having a real economy for cryptocurrency.
It does.
Like a real life economy. Not only can you go to local businesses and spend this stuff, but there's also a thing called Market Day that happens on a regular basis up here. And it happens, I think, on different days in different areas of the state. So there's one weekend where it'll be in Manchester, and then there's another weekend it'll be in the Keene area, and then another one in, I don't know, probably Portsmouth or something, Concord, wherever else the other ones are, where free staters, liberty people get together, they set up their wares, whatever it is whatever they got. There's one farm, and
it doesn't even have to be the actual physical marketplace. It could be a larger marketplace. I like to wrench, so I've done car work for people. I fixed James Cleveland's moving van there that he had for his business.
Yeah,
that needed a little bit of work. I came in, did a little bit of work on it. He paid me in I think Bitcoin Cash.
Nice.
You can do it. So if you have skills and you are in the greater crypto community, it's not even a libertarian crypto community. It's just a crypto community now. It's people from all over the spectrum have crypto in New Hampshire now, and you can offer supply a good or a service. You probably could get paid for it in crypto.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing more businesses of a variety of types taking cryptocurrency. So I just want to encourage, I know you mentioned off the air that you wanted to talk about the migration of freedom lovers here.
So
get up here, because there's nothing like this anywhere else at all.
This year, since the raid, Ian wasn't allowed to do some of the things he loves to do, and he wasn't allowed to go to Pork Fest this year.
Yeah, that's right.
Because, his state controllers who declare themselves his king now.
The biggest Pork Fest ever.
Yeah, the biggest Pork Fest ever. They wouldn't let him go. So we rejected that we combated that by throwing a little Ian Fest right here at the house. And, and probably, 60 people, 66. We basically, most of the people that we invited showed up, and we probably didn't invite a lot of people that we should have. But it was quite a big little party.
Nice.
And one of the people that showed up, the husband's name was Leaf, and the wife's name, I think her name was Gail. I can't remember. I hope they're not listening.
That might be right.
But they just messaged me and said, hey, we left Cali on our way to New Hampshire with our RV. Yes. And the thing is, we can talk to you about how great it is here and why you should live here. If you come here and you set foot here and you hang out with us for 10 minutes, you're going to be like, oh, I got to go now. I got to find ways. You're just going to start thinking of ways to, cut the things that are anchoring you to wherever you are, because you got to move. You got to go. This is the place to be. And that's kind of what happened with these guys. And they showed up at Ian Fest, and, I think I hijacked.
I didn't even know who they were. They just, got figured out how to get here.
They were in town. They wanted to see some. They wanted to see some Free State stuff, and they showed up at Ian Fest.
Yeah, here's a few dozen of them.
And they were great. And she is. She's
a nurse.
She's a nurse. Yeah, she's healthcare too. So
and she was telling the same kind of stories that your girlfriend Nikki tells. They have there are two opposite coasts, but they're having the same experiences.
And they never met each other, didn't know each other, and they're telling the exact same
with people
stories.
that had the vaccine and are having side effects
that aren't
coming
great.
in.
Yep. But here, we don't know how much longer people are going to be able to freely move around this piece of land. You guys,
do it now. Yep.
Go now.
Yeah,
there are no excuses. Get out.
I feel so bad too I just saw, I think it was Free State NH on Twitter a couple days ago responded to the New York Libertarian Party. They're having like some convention in a few weeks about finding freedom in an unfree state. And Free State NH said, here's how you find freedom in an unfree state. And they posted a picture of a U-Haul. It's like, come on, guys. You're literally just a few hours to the west. Why would you stay in the least free place?
Rearranging the deck chairs
States?
on the Titanic.
There's more coming up here in moments. It's Free Talk Live.
Carl Wattner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Wattner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The U.S. House of Representatives has voted to hold former White House Chief Strategist Stephen Bannon in criminal contempt of Congress. It's after he defied a subpoena to appear before the committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Attorney General Merrick Garland will now make the final decision on whether to prosecute. FSN's Kate Fisher reports.
The vote was largely along party lines, with 9 GOP members joining the Democratic majority. Democrats believe Bannon is a key witness because he spoke to former President Donald Trump in the weeks leading up to the insurrection. And on his podcast the day before, he said all hell was going to break loose tomorrow. Liz Cheney, one of only 2 Republicans on the committee, says it's vital they hear his testimony.
Mr. Bannon's own public statements make clear he knew what was going to happen before it did, and thus he must have been aware of and may well have been involved in the planning of everything that played out on that day.
If Bannon's convicted, he could face fines or jail. Democrats hope his case will stand as a warning to potential witnesses about the consequences of not cooperating with the investigation.
European leaders kicked off a 2-day summit in Brussels with a discussion on rising energy prices, a growing concern as the continent heads into the cold winter months. However, the EU standoff with Poland is threatening to overshadow other issues, such as COVID-19 and migration. FSN's Giles Gibson reports from Brussels.
Heading into this meeting, there were tense negotiations going on behind the scenes about whether Poland and the rule of law in the country would even be on the agenda. But the fact that this issue has come up second in the running order of this meeting after energy and ahead of the migration crisis really shows just how important an issue this is for certain leaders who are sitting around that table here in Brussels. This dispute was reignited earlier this month when the Polish Constitutional Tribunal issued a ruling that EU law does not take primacy over certain aspects of the Polish constitution. That really is a bit of a challenge to the entire legal framework that the European Union is built on.
The S&P hit a new record high after a series of strong earnings results. It's the 7th straight day of gains for the index. FSN's Sarah Walton reports from New York.
The Dow ended the day down just 7 points, while the Nasdaq was up more than 0.5%. The S&P closed at a new record high, rising 0.3%, helped by strong earnings results announced by Tesla on Wednesday, leading to a 3% rise in its stock price during Thursday's trading. Sarah Walton, New York.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Hey, it is Free Talk Live. You can join us. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You can bring up whatever you want. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
And Matt.
By the way, I want to say thanks to a couple of our Free Talk Live amps. We got Ala Loca, who is a gold amp. Brana Hansen is a silver level supporter. And these are people who've joined the most recent reboot, if you will, of the AMP program, which is now called AMPS, Advertise, Market, Promote, Support, Free Talk Live. You can do that on our new Patreon. And you can access that by going to amps.freetalklive.com. If you're on the old system, your account, if it's a credit card or debit card, is probably going to be canceled soon because the credit card processor that we have decided that they didn't want to work with Free Talk Live. They wouldn't accept Bonnie as a co-signer on our account. And rather than keep trying to put people on the account, I was just like, you know what, screw it. We'll just launch a Patreon instead. So if you want to help us out there, you can do it for as little as $5 a month at amps.freetalklive.com. That'll take you right to the Patreon page, and you can read more about the program and the cool perks that you'll get access to and the different levels that you can sign up for. So appreciate everybody who's supporting the new AMPS program at amps.freetalklive.com.
What does AMPS do?
It's the usual kind of donate to your favorite show kind of thing. So
and then what happens to that? That we do something special with
some of the money is used to buy advertising for Free Talk Live, specifically to the radio industry. So we're in Talkers Magazine, which is a daily publication online that has information for program directors and general managers of talk radio stations and such. So that's the primary thing that is being done with it. We've also purchased advertising time on different podcasts. So like Sovereign Tech, we're a sponsor over on Brian Sovereign's Tech podcast, and we were on Johnny Rocket's podcast for a while, and we've bought ads with Lou Rockwell in the past and a bunch of different.
It helps get the word out there.
Yeah, to kind of advertise so we're advertising to the talk radio world, and we're advertising to the Liberty world as well to make them more aware of us, because believe it or not, we're still relatively small as far as our footprint is concerned, even though we've been around for almost 20 years. So.
But Free Talk Live also airs over satellite, too, to anywhere in the world.
We do.
Right? So
yeah, this doesn't technically pay for that, but...
it does. Well, people in North Korea could listen to Free Talk
we're not
Live.
on in North Korea. No.
What if there was somebody with like a clandestine radio and they were just tapping into the signal from
we don't have a satellite signal over North Korea.
Oh.
So unfortunately, that could be possible, but...
How much crypto do we need to make that happen?
Well, first of all, the satellite company won't accept crypto, unfortunately. I've asked them year after year after year. In fact, I even sent them I've sent them more than one email saying, if you'd accepted the Bitcoin I offered you back in 2015 or whenever it was that 2016 or something, I first offered it to them, and you'd held on to it, because we're their smallest contract. We've got such a low price on this satellite channel. I can't imagine anyone's got a cheaper price than we do, the satellite company. I mean, we're literally paying them just less than $1,000 a month for 2 satellite channels over 2 continents.
Yeah, but don't they know Doge Moon? Doge to the moon?
I don't know what they know. I mean, I've told them, look, if you had taken the $30,000 worth of money that we've given you over time, you'd have $30 million or something like that right now. If you just said yes,
it was a bad move, satellite company.
They keep saying no.
Should have listened up on that one.
They keep saying no. They're like, no, we want a wire transfer. Okay.
Derp, derp, derp.
Okay, some people, you can lead the horse to water, and Peter Schiff will not drink it either, as we were discussing earlier.
Keep being poor. That's
so please
fine.
go to amps.freetalklive.com. Help us out there. Really appreciate it. I do want to talk about this backlog since we teased the story earlier tonight.
I have not heard anything about this. I want to know what's going on.
You haven't heard about the supply chain issues?
Not at all. Well, I've seen the supply chain. I mean,
what have you seen?
Walmart's got empty shelves.
Really?
Oh,
right
yeah.
now?
I mean, there's like one can of spray paint at the head of every color, but there's nothing behind it.
Wow.
And stuff like that. I was in AutoZone yesterday over here in Keene, and usually you have tons of oil and different engine treatments, and now there's one bottle of each at the front of the shelf and nothing
that bad.
So I'm wondering, I mean, that there's definitely supply chain issues going on. Will you tell me, fill me in, start at the beginning and treat me like I'm 5?
Well, we did talk about this in detail a couple weeks ago on one of the shows with me and Aria. We had a really interesting detailed story. It was Yahoo News, I think, that really kind of laid out what's going on. But basically, what happened was the quote-unquote pandemic struck. And then, of course, government shut everything down. And so a bunch of people went home because they weren't allowed to go to work. And they started buying things that they otherwise wouldn't have purchased. And so there ended up being like this large demand for products that otherwise wouldn't have happened necessarily in that time frame. And at the same time, people are quitting their jobs. So you don't have as many truck drivers. You don't have as many port workers. You don't have as many people to move these products around and get them to where they are supposed to go. In addition, entire factories were closed in places like China or Vietnam or wherever, where people, a lot of the stuff that we buy is manufactured. Those things were closed in some cases for months. So as they're coming back online, now they've got a backlog of orders, and you've got this perfect storm of events. And so a ton of these products are getting loaded on ships, and these ships are coming into ports in the United States, and they can't be processed quickly enough. There's just not enough workers to move them. And even if there were enough workers at the ports to move these products, get the cargo containers off the cargo ships and put them into the port and load them to trucks, there's not enough trucks to pick up the cargo containers. Apparently, there's 16 cargo containers at the Port of Los Angeles, which is the big one. There's 16 containers waiting for each truck that arrives.
Interesting. I have to question this. I know capitalism to move faster and harder. When problems arise,
this isn't a free market.
People will run to solve the problems because there's a profit motive.
There's a free market.
If there's a free market.
But guess who runs the ports?
The United States government.
If not the federal government, the locals.
Or the locals, yeah.
I mean, there's customs is there, too, standing in the way and making things take longer.
There's a ton of red tape.
So, you've got different levels of government that are running the major arteries as far as getting products into the country.
And plus, the whole overarching COVID baloney.
Yeah.
I was talking to you earlier off the air. I was talking about how there's such a thing as fifth-gen warfare. And maybe this is a talk for another show because we could really get into it with the various generations of warfare. But this entire COVID thing, if you are familiar with fifth-gen warfare theory, this is all day long fifth-gen warfare. So I'm wondering if this whole port backlog, I think this is just another part of that warfare strategy. We are literally.
You think this is being done on purpose?
This is World War. This is genuinely World War, fifth-gen warfare. I don't think it is one country versus another country. I think cryptocurrency may have spawned it. I think governments early on saw the problem coming with that, realized they weren't going to be able to do anything about it, and now all of the countries are colluding with one another to create some type of control mechanism that they've never used before, and all they know how to do is fight and flail as they go down, and they can't do it openly. They can't just start attacking people and loading people onto cattle cars, so they're gonna have to find something else to do. So they got to come up with this big psychological warfare situation that they can launch against people. They're turning groups of people against each other that were never against each other before.
But that's what government's always done. I mean, that's how it stays in power.
They have to an extent, but it was never the bread and butter of the struggle. With fifth-gen warfare, it is core to the struggle. They don't want shots going off. They don't want to have armies going up against each other. They don't have to have military maneuvers in a field or Air Force planes dropping bombs. This is literally just having society go at itself day in, day out. So everybody is super distracted, for one, and for two, they begin to become desperate because things like supply chains are down and that's it.
Yeah, and it's not getting better. They came out with a solution. So Joe Biden came in and he said he's going to solve this problem.
Oh, that's dumb.
And you know what their big solution was?
Oh, God, I have no idea. Tell me.
We should go 24/7. They weren't doing that before?
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
603-283-6160. More coming up. Free Talk Live.
Oh, my God.
Excuse me, is this where I get a license to start a new business?
I wouldn't be hasty. You have to get a license to go out of business, too, you know.
Oh, well, look, I've invented this little anti-gravity machine, see?
Oh, is that why you're walking 2 inches above the floor?
Oh, yes, it's very comfortable. It saves on shoe leather.
Yeah, well, you have to fill out these forms and report to the Human Services Department of Manpower Orientation and register with the Fair Employment Practice Commission, the Wage and Hour Division of the Employment Standards Administration, the State Sales and Income Tax Division, the Internal Revenue Service, and the Social Security Administration of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, and, of course, OSHA.
OSHA? I thought that was a little town in Wisconsin.
You'll find out. Say, floating around like that could be dangerous. Have you checked with the Consumer Product Safety Commission?
Well, not yet.
Come to think of it, you actually are flying, aren't you? Look, you need to go over to the Federal Aviation Administration and the Transportation...
It's very hard to get anything done these days if you're in business, but free enterprise built this country. Think what could happen if we don't keep it free. A public service of this station and the Center for the Defense of Free Enterprise, Bellevue, Washington.
We just can't have people floating about unregulated, you know.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Moments remain here. If you want to join us, you can. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We're talking about fifth-generation warfare, which is a new term for me. I'd heard about fourth generation, I didn't know there was a fifth, but honestly, I don't know what the difference is between these. So you're going to run through a
yeah. Let's
list
go through
here.
them, and we'll just see if any of this sounds familiar to you, the listener. We're just going to define. We're going to read right from the wiki. First generation warfare refers to ancient post-classical battles fought with massed manpower using phalanx, line and column tactics with uniformed soldiers governed by the state.
Okay.
So
rocks and sticks,
basically spears, swords, and they're marching even right up into colonial American times, the Revolutionary War. They would march armies at each other.
Yep. Stand in a field.
Yeah, stand in the field, and that's where if you watch movies like The Patriot with Mel Gibson, it's where it all started to kind of fall apart. You had militias popping up, and they were running flanks and getting around people. And you get into second generation warfare is the early modern tactics used after the invention of the rifled musket and breech loading weapons, and continued through the development of the machine gun and indirect fire. The term second generation warfare was created by U.S. military in 1989.
Oh.
Third,
wow. Okay.
Third, these are all military tacticians, though most of these people who are inventing these terms are attached to military somehow. Third generation warfare.
So World War I would have been in second generation.
Definitely, yeah.
warfare.
Yep.
Okay.
That was when they started laying down heavy machine gun fire and stuff like that. Third generation warfare focuses on using late modern technology derived tactics of leveraging speed, stealth, and surprise to bypass the enemy's lines and collapse their forces from the rear. Essentially, this was the end of linear warfare on a tactical level, with units seeking not to simply meet each other face to face, but to outmaneuver each other to gain the greatest advantage. And this is where we really, I would say the proto versions of that were where people were getting around the British ranks, like average citizens in the United States, the early United States were getting around the British ranks, coming up from behind, coming out of the woods, sniping at them and stuff, and they weren't used to that that was dirty war to them. They didn't believe in that. Wasn't fair and square fighting to Brits when they were thinking about it.
But yet that wasn't third generation.
It wasn't yet. It was kind of the beginnings of that stuff, though. So it was deep.
Third generation would be to use technology to achieve whatever kind of sneaky,
I would say mechanized technology. Yeah, tanks and
stealth
planes,
and
artillery, and getting stuff like bombers. Perfect example. Fourth generation are presented is characterized by postmodern return to decentralized forms of warfare, blurring the lines between war and politics, combatants and civilians, due to nation states' loss of their near monopoly on combat forces, returning to modes of conflict common in pre-modern times. So I think they're talking like how stuff goes sideways in Vietnam, stuff goes sideways, and they're killing civilians in Iraq left and right and throwing guns on their body to make it look like they were combatant. Just dirt. It's a mess. It's a messy war. But fifth generation warfare is different. And I think this is probably really the most dangerous type of warfare so far, because it seems innocent and there aren't piles of bodies stacking up in the street. That doesn't mean that the effects of the war going on are any less.
So you're not talking about like the Proud Boys and Antifa shooting each other with paintballs and throwing urine on each other.
It could be part of that, because that's part of the division of the society right there. That's a symptom of the division of the society, and that's exactly one of the tactics that fifth generation warfare wagers would be looking to employ. So by definition, fifth generation warfare is conducted primarily through non-kinetic military actions such as social engineering, misinformation, cyber attacks, along with emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence and fully autonomous systems. And I've talked on the show before about how I suspect that most of the accounts who are pro-vaccine, pro-mask, and pro-Joe Biden that you see on Facebook and so forth actually aren't real people. I think that's AI that's been programmed to respond. And that would be a fifth generation warfare tactic. And that was described by Daniel Abbott as a war of information and perception.
The information war, as Alex Jones coined that term, I think, a while back, or at least he registered the website. Yeah, InfoWar. Interesting. So do you think this whole supply chain thing is part of this?
Yeah, I think it's I don't think it has to happen. I think it just is being forced to happen. I think it's being fostered and encouraged to happen.
Free State, New Hampshire, the user watching us on Twitch tonight is chatting here. He said when we were discussing the supply chain holdups at the ports, he says tens of thousands of containers can't be moved from the port because California passed an emission standard which blocks any truck from more than 3 years old from even entering the state.
I read that the other day. Yeah, he's right. I read that the other day.
He says they're crashing the economy 24/7, 365. Running the port that 24/7.
And that's what I'm talking about. That's on purpose. They know what that'll do, and they're doing it on purpose. That's fifth gen warfare.
He says this 24/7 still won't bring trucks to the port. There's no more room for containers on the land at the port. So they're literally full.
That's
they cannot
nutty.
move. And that is why the latest update here from The Guardian is the backlog of cargo ships, which was 60 2 weeks ago when Ari and I were talking about this. 60 cargo ships that can contain, I think it was like 20,000 of these cargo containers. So like you do the math, and this thing, there were like basically 500,000 to 1 million, I mean, because each ship's a little different size, so somewhere in that range. Upwards of 1 million cargo containers, these 20-foot long units that you see people like, you know, buy the old ones and move into or whatever, those huge containers. 1 million of those things waiting out there, and this was 2 weeks ago.
And then the extreme left, which is clearly the people who are pushing this type of thing, get to say, look at the failures of the capitalism.
Market. Yeah.
Look at how free markets have failed
Except
us.
it's not free market. It's run by the government. The ports are owned and operated by governments and unions, okay, together. But now, as of Tuesday, according to The Guardian, there are now more than 100 ships waiting off of the coast of Los Angeles to in Long Beach to unload thousands of containers. It has seen dozens of ships idling in the waters outside of the ports for weeks. Guess what? You got to pay those guys on that ship.
Yep.
As they just sit there and wait.
And China is probably going to keep pumping stuff this way to make it look even worse, because China is communist and they want to look.
Eventually, there's not going to.
And now we're hearing people saying we need to start not people. Who knows? It could be just more bots, AI, saying we need to start paying our debts back to China. China holds our debt, and they want to get. We need to pay them. We need to make good on that.
We need to walk away and leave the United States and declare independence as soon as possible and open up the New Hampshire port to freedom, essentially. Because look, it's not just California. What ended up happening was a lot of these ships, they're like, well, we're not going to wait around here. We'll just go through the Panama Canal and go to the East Coast and go to Savannah or New York City or New Jersey. There's ports there. Guess what? There's a backlog there too.
I'm sure.
Now, it's not as heavy as it is out on the West Coast, because again, most of these ships are coming over from China, so of course they're going to go straight to Los Angeles. But if you're waiting and waiting and waiting for weeks out there and you can't even get into the port, of course you're going to go try a different port. But now there's a backup in Savannah and there's a backup off of New York, and so this is a mess. This is a real mess,
and it's intentional.
Yeah, and so that's why one of the reasons we're talking about independence here in New Hampshire. And it was interesting today. I was at I'm not wearing the shirt I was wearing earlier today. I was wearing my "It's Not You, It's Me" shirt that I got from Top Lobster.
Such a great shirt.
Yeah, cool libertarian artist. He made this shirt where it shows the United States. I've had it on the last couple nights, so if you watched us on the cam, you probably saw it. But it shows an image of the United States, an outline of the United States, and then New Hampshire is sort of highlighted in white, and it's popped out.
It's broken off.
Yeah, from the United States, and it's larger, sort of to the side of the map, and it says "It's not you, it's me," and then on the back it says nhexit.us. And I'm standing there waiting at this barbecue place. We went out to lunch after the trials today that I had attended, and I'm standing there, and one of the guys looked like the manager, maybe owner of the barbecue place. He says, "Hey, I like your shirt." And I said, "Yeah, well, did you know that New Hampshire's got there might be a ballot measure next year to allow people to vote on this?" And he said he had heard something about that. So,
it's got support. This is not like the state of Jefferson in Northern California. They got to deal with California.
Yeah.
they would love to break off in Northern California, but they got to deal with California. We're just New Hampshire. And there's a lot of people around here who'd support that kind of thing. And we don't have to break off from anybody but the rest of the United States. We don't have to break off from some behemoth. We don't have a New York City. Boston has no political control over us, really. So we could make this happen.
I think it can happen. Now, whether or not the state reps and the senators will actually vote it to where then the people will have it on the ballot to vote in 2022, that's ultimately the question. I think if it can make it to the ballot, it can win. I don't, how likely it is to win, I don't know, but I think it's possible.
If you would like to live in a freedom country, then you ought to move on over to the state of New Hampshire
and get here before next year.
Get here before next year. Run for office too. We could, if it fails next year, we'll try it again in a couple years after that.
Will.
So get here and run for office.
Yeah, put down some roots. Start meeting people in the community. Get out there. Get active. Find something that you like to do. Find the group of people that you like to hang out with, because there's thousands of liberty-minded people here, so you can hang out with the ones that you like.
Yep.
It's not like in most places where it's like 5 dorks in a restaurant once a month complaining about throughout the world.
Yeah, it's 30 dorks in a restaurant.
A whole lot of people here. We'll see you tomorrow night online. In the meantime, you can join us over at freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo